All right, what's up, guys? It is Saturday, 1:54 p.m. nap time. We just did some berry picking, strawberry picking at Hall Family Farm. They also have a tractor ride that has Disney characters in the woods. It was pretty crazy. But now we're back at the office, and I wanted to go through today some of my favorite marathon training shoes. We got to give you 5, and also talk a little bit about how to approach building a shoe rotation. So if you're training for a race and you're currently maybe running in one shoe, how to think about adding a second shoe or a third shoe when that's necessary, and also break down a little bit different types of shoes on the market right now and where they might all fit into your closet or your office floor in my case. So I'm excited to do this video because this is basically my 5 favorite shoes right now. Some of the 5 favorite shoes that I've run in over the past year. These here, and then we also of course have a few honorable mention picks hanging out over there. I'm not going to show them to you yet, but with that, let us get into it. So I'm going to start it off today with a shoe that is not a training shoe at all. This is the Saucony Endorphin Pro 4. This is actually a racing shoe. And the reason I want to start here is because this shoe has one of the best value propositions on the market right now. It's priced at $225. Nearly every single other racing shoe on the market is at least $250, other than shoes like the Atreyu Racer, and they're a brand that offers all their shoes at about $100. So for 10% less than everything on the market, you're getting the same type of foam, PIBA, you're getting the full-length carbon fiber plate, and you're also getting a lot more comfort. And the reason why I want to put this on the training favorites, not just my top racing shoes, which I'll make sure to do that video soon too, is because it is a really durable shoe and it's a really comfortable shoe. And so for training for the marathon, a lot of what's going to build that marathon specific fitness is those long runs. Getting up to 90 minutes in the week is huge. Then on the weekends, going at least 2 hours every single weekend. That's what helped me break through to the next level for my marathon fitness. And so using a shoe like the Saucony Endorphin Pro 4, it's not necessarily going to make you any less prone to injury risk on those 2-hour runs. Studies have shown that the different types of shoes we have out there, there's not really one that's better than the other. It's not better objectively to run in a minimalist shoe or a maximalist shoe, but anecdotally, I can tell you it's a lot easier and more fun to go for a 2-hour run in something like this than in a low stack shoe. And I know I'm going to have the Barefoot Mafia coming at me, but guys, if you've ever seen a barefoot runner, it kind of looks like they're running trying not to get injured. That is besides the point. That is a complete diversion from the whole point of what I'm trying to talk about. But this is a fun shoe. It's bouncy, it's supportive, it's protective, the stability is decent. And so with training for a marathon, you got to be looking ahead to race day. I think this shoe is one of the few options on the market that I feel just as comfortable training in as racing in. And the previous version of the shoe, the Saucony Endorphin Pro 3, was also an awesome shoe and a really durable shoe. I took that one up to 300 miles, and I think this guy is going to be just as durable. So this would be my top pick. It's likely that you already have something to run in every day, but for long runs on the weekend, there's no better shoe on the market right now. There's no shoe that I enjoy more for 2-hour long runs, doing race pace, and potentially racing in the Saucony Endorphin Pro 4. This guy, I have about 50 miles on it right now, but 26.2 of those miles were a marathon that I raced during training. So this is lab tested over here. So first pick, Saucony Endorphin Pro 4. Now my second favorite here, and these are not in order, these are all shoes that I feel represent the best of their category. That's how we're going to approach it. My second favorite here is the New Balance 1080 V13. This is going to come as no surprise to you guys who've been watching the channel for a while. So this is a super soft shoe, and where this slots in is not like the Saucony Endorphin Pro 4 for those long runs and any faster days, which I should have mentioned the Pro 4 as well. You can use it for your tempo. You can use it for your speed workouts. It's really going to be that long run shoe and race shoe, but you can use it for those workouts as well. 1080 V13, complete opposite side of the spectrum here. This is going to be the pick for slow recovery days, for daily miles when you're feeling a little bit beat up, and any day where you just want to get out there and move without worrying about pace. So if we think about the hierarchy of different types of runs that help me build fitness, those 90-minute runs and 2-hour runs, those were huge. Let's say 2-hour runs are number 1. Second underneath that is going to be recovery runs, and that's what builds in the additional mileage during the week. So if you're running 30 or 40 miles a week, it's likely you're taking at least 1 day off per week, maybe 2. When you add in a shoe like the 1080 V13 and you add in some recovery mileage, so instead of taking Monday off after your Sunday long run, doing 30 to 45 minutes recovery, that helped me build a ton of aerobic fitness. Adding more mileage into the week for me made it easier to run past 2 hours, hit 22 miles consistently, get the blood moving. And of course, it took years of building up to that for me to feel comfortable doing that without posing an injury risk. But once I was able to do that, it gave me a huge breakthrough, not necessarily in terms of my speed, but in terms of my endurance. And now any weekend I can go out there and hit a 22 miler. I took only 1 week off after my last marathon where I raced a marathon PR at 2:49. And then 2 weeks later, I was out there and I put up a 6:44 pace 22 miler last weekend. So recovery mileage is huge for building marathon specific fitness. And I love using this shoe to do that. Super soft, really nice and supportive. It's got a decent amount of stability, but the kicker here, the sweet sauce, is just how padded it is up here. Everything about the shoe, it's like slipping your foot inside of a marshmallow. It's awesome. So if you don't like soft shoes, I would not go for this. But if you do want a super comfortable experience, that's what you're going to be getting out of this Fresh Foam X here. And by the way, this is the 1080. Do not get the 880. The 880, they say it uses Fresh Foam, but that Fresh Foam is very firm. It's a different experience than this. So this would be my top pick for a recovery running shoe for relaxed miles. You can take it up for long runs if you don't have any sort of race pace in there, but I've been preferring to do my long runs a little bit faster. I am training with a little bit more of an advanced style right now. So if it's your first marathon or maybe even second marathon, you might not be doing a lot of fast pace during your long run. So this is a nice option for 90-minute, 2-hour runs without race pace. But for me, this is relaxed days, recovery. Also just wearing it around town. It's got that classic New England New Balance look to it. So good job, New Balance 1080 V13. All right, next up here, our third favorite middle of the video. That's probably not the middle of the video, but middle of 3 is in the middle of 1 to 5. So this is a middle type of shoe. It's like the middle child of the running shoe industry. It's like the middle child of Nike's lineup. It is the Vomero 17. And the reason it's the middle child is because below it, they have the Pegasus in their core running lineup. And then above it, they have the Invincible 3. And so this is like a combination of the Pegasus and the Invincible. The top layer has ZoomX, that race foam that's in the Invincible. But the shoe isn't as bouncy and uncontrolled as the Invincible because in the bottom, you get Cushlon, which is similar to the foam that's in the Pegasus. It's a little bit different, but it's going to be a stable foam with a nice bounce to it, but not super bouncy and uncontrolled. So this is an awesome shoe for everyday miles. I always like having one shoe in my rotation, and this is where I want to talk about building out a rotation a little bit. I always like having one shoe that is simpler. And so this isn't the most simple or the simplest shoe in the world. It's $160. You can actually find it under $100 right now at the time I'm making this video at Dick's Sporting Goods. But it's not the simplest shoe because you do get that racing foam. But compared to everything else that we're talking about in this video, the ride is a lot more straightforward. You get a little bit more ground feel up here in the forefoot. You get nice protection out in the back, but you get a ton of rubber here on the bottom for some durability. So as I mentioned at the top, there's research right now does not say that if you run in a max cushion shoe, you'll have fewer injuries. In my experience, I feel a little bit more confident and comfortable cruising my daily miles in a max cushion shoe right now because I'm hitting 100 miles a week. But I do like running occasionally in a little bit lower stack shoe. And this isn't a super low shoe. They report the stack up in the front at about, I think, 29. But because you get the ZoomX, which compresses a ton, and because some of that stack is going to be the rubber, which you can see here is pretty tall, it rides a little bit lower. But for a simpler, straightforward ride for everyday miles, that's going to be the Vomero 17. There is a little bit of overlap in a shoe like this in the 1080 in that you can use them both as relaxed daily trainers. But this is a little bit better for those days where maybe you have strides on your training plan. So strides are fast bursts of running usually towards the end of a run. So the way I'll do them is I'll do 6 rounds on the last mile, 20-second bursts of faster running, getting down to 5K pace, even to mile race pace, then easing off for 40 seconds, then getting into the next one. So a shoe like this where we're doing some intermittent fast work or even steadier running close to marathon pace, this is a little bit more comfortable with that slightly faster pace than something like the 1080 V13. It's also not going to be as soft and super slow, super relaxed as the 1080 V13. So if you want a nice, straightforward, everyday running shoe, this is the best one on the market right now. This is my favorite pick. I've tested nearly every single daily trainer that's released this year. If I haven't tested a daily trainer that's released this year that you want me to test, drop it below. We'll get it in the office. But as of now, this is still sitting on the throne, and you got the all-white colorway for $96 at Dick's Sporting Goods. You got the white and the blue, the white and the black. There's some good colorways of this on sale for under $100. So great value. You're going to get a ton of miles out of this. Also, the upper is pretty comfortable too, and I should say the toe box is decently wide as well. Same thing as the previous two shoes we highlighted, the 1080 V13 and the Saucony Endorphin Pro 4. They all have comfortable uppers, and that's kind of the theme, right, of this video for marathon training shoes. I really prioritize comfort on foot over anything else because, we had a fly in my hand, because we're going to have these shoes on our feet for usually 30 minutes plus, 45 minutes plus, maybe even up to 2 hours plus every day. So having something that feels good is super important. So for a durable, everyday shoe, that's the Nike Vomero 17. All right, guys, next up here, we have the Adidas Boston 12. So this is a shoe that used to be my favorite marathon training shoe, and we'll talk about the shoe that's my current favorite right after this. But this is not going to be the shoe for everyone. But if you like a little bit of a firmer, more structured ride, if you want something that's really good for faster work, that's the Adidas Boston 12. This was my favorite shoe through all of 2023, or through the end of 2023 to early 2024. I use this for long runs with Race Pace. I use this for mile repeats, 800-meter repeats, steady runs, any run where I knew I was going to be pushing the pace and trying to hit pace targets during marathon training. That's where I liked the Boston 12. It is really bouncy. It does have a little bit of a firmer foam feel just in the back here before it's broken in, but once you break in this Lightstrike Pro up in the front, which takes maybe 20 miles, and once you break in the Lightstrike 2.0, which takes maybe 50 miles, but once all those are broken in, it is a really nice smooth ride. Upper this is the worst part of the shoe, and it's the only shoe out here that doesn't have a great upper, but other than that, this is a fantastic shoe. It's also great for wet weather, and if you don't want to buy the Saucony Endorphin Pro 4, you could race in the shoe as well. But man, Saucony Endorphin Pro 4 is just the best value on the market. This thing is on sale though, $120 at Dick's right now. So for a super durable shoe, look at this, 300 miles and there's barely any wear on it. For a super durable shoe that gets better with time, this is a great buy at $120. So long runs, speed work. I would not use it for everyday miles unless you're pushing the pace, and I don't want to put numbers on it, but unless you're probably running close to 7 flat every day or below, or you're a bigger runner, again, not going to put numbers on it, but this wouldn't be my choice for a daily trainer. And the reason I did say the 7 flat, I know some guys who are faster than me who like using this as a daily trainer. And if you have maybe if you're running more of a 4-foot runner every day and really putting some power down into the front, you could use it as a daily trainer. But for me, I like it most for those speed days where I'm pushing the pace and getting a little pop. So Adidas Boston 12, still one of the best marathon training shoes on the market. I'm eager to see what they do with the Boston 13. All right, guys, so last up here before we get into the honorable mention, this is my current favorite marathon training shoe, and this was my inspiration for putting together this video. This is a shoe it's not gonna be on everyone's list this year, and I understand that. It's a little bit of a niche product. It is the Hoka Skyward X, and it's heavy and it's expensive. It's $225, and it comes in my size at about 11.5 ounces. Just for some context here, off the top of my head, I think Vomero is about 10. The Pro 4 is probably about 7 to 8. The New Balance 1080 V13 is about 9. The Boston 12 is around 9. So this is 10 to 20% heavier than everything else out there, but you get a ton more stack, a ton more protection. The upper is super comfortable. And so with my philosophy of how to put together a marathon training rotation, prioritizing comfort over everything, and with marathon training, we want to make sure that we're feeling good, we're recovering well, and we're ready to push hard for the next day of prescribed pace or the next day where we need to hit a certain workout. The Skyward X is the type of shoe that can do that every single day. So I just put about 60 miles on it over the past week. I got it to 100 miles, did the 100-mile review yesterday, and people are still sleeping on this shoe, man. But it's an awesome shoe for every single type of run that I tried to do. It reminded me a lot of the Boston 12 when I was running faster up in the forefoot, because like the Boston 12, this has a dual foam setup. So you got the top layer, and you can't see it, but a top layer in here of PIBA, the race foam. You get the carbon plate, similar to how the Boston has the energy rods, the glass fiber energy rods. And like the Boston, you get a good amount of rubber coverage. You can see we do have some wear here at 100 miles, but I'm feeling pretty good that this shoe will make it to the 300-mile club and be in decent shape. So expensive, I think it's going to be pretty durable, but one of the most fun rides. It's super bouncy. That's really the key attribute of it that makes it an awesome shoe. It's bouncy, it's stable, it's smooth. When I'm running fast, and I took this down, I was cooking at 620s. I told you guys this yesterday, cooking at 620s in the shoe, which is about my marathon pace, or was my marathon pace last cycle. And it felt great for that. So there's nothing that this shoe can't do. It's a little bit like how a lot of you feel about the Super Blast. That's how I felt about the shoe. I could just take it out for everything, and it felt good for pretty much every type of run. And then you get a bunch of padding here. I call this the Know Yourself, like the Drake song. You got to know yourself. It's not trying to be a light speed day shoe. It's trying to be that marathon shoe that's supportive, comfortable, but can also do that fast, long style of running. So for those runners out there that are maybe a little bit bigger, maybe a little bit taller like me, if you're doing a ton of 1 hour runs throughout the week and you want to push the pace a little bit more, you don't want to be running relaxed in a shoe every day like the 1080 V13, this is going to be the shoe for you. Anecdotally, I do also think my legs feel a little bit fresher, and it's a little bit easier for me to hit faster paces in the shoe. So I'm getting maybe a little bit more aerobic benefit, so I can get my heart rate up, I can get the effort up a little bit higher with the legs taking less of that burden. And that's really the goal with training. We want to make it easier for us to do more work, and if we can get a greater stimulus with a lower wear on the body, boom. That's called building fitness right there. So Skyward X, my current favorite marathon training shoe as of April. It's almost May. So let's say as of April to May 2024. I'm sure we'll double back and do an update to this video in the summer, maybe the fall, but this is sitting on the throne right now. So let me pull out 2 bonus shoes. You guys are probably a little bit surprised that I didn't put them in the core 5, but that's the thing. When you make these lists, if you do 5 and you want to put in 2 more, you got to take 2 out. All right, guys, so first up here in the honorable mention list, we have the Hoka Mach 5, the Hoka Mach 6. Mach 5 is also a great shoe. I put 310 miles on that shoe, but the Mach 6 here, the reason it didn't make my list for marathon training shoes is because it's not that supportive. Compared to everything else we brought out here, it's not as great at keeping the legs protected over an hour. So this is actually the shoe that I recommended as, and I'm still recommending as, the best daily trainer for most people. If you just want a running shoe to go out there and run some fun miles and be comfortable for pushing the pace for 30 minutes a day, hitting the treadmill, doing whatever you need to do, that's the Mach 6. It's a really fun shoe. It's lightweight, it's bouncy, it's easy to run in. But when we're thinking about the marathon and the training that comes with it, we get more specialized. And so some days we're running fast, some days we're running long. This shoe can do it all, and that's why I'm pulling it onto the honorable mention list. But there's just a shoe that's a little bit better for keeping the legs protected that can do everything that the Mach 6 does. So I would still recommend this as a daily trainer. If you don't want to use or go for the Vomero for everyday miles, this is an awesome alternative to that. It's light, it's bouncy, it's fun. It just got bumped to 6 just because of the support here. The real only downside of this shoe was that on the double day test I did with it, I felt that maybe it wasn't giving me as much protection in the front here as some of the other shoes. And also throughout my use of the shoe, I didn't feel like it was the most stable. So it's a great shoe if you're going to be doing a lot of 30, 45-minute runs and under. Maybe you're running once or twice a week. Mach 6 is great, but for marathon training, if you want to be a little bit more protected, feel a little bit more confident going longer miles, Mach 6 would not be my top pick. Now, a shoe that I was very sad to leave off here was the Nova Blast 4. And really, I couldn't find a place for it here. And I guess if we had bumped the Pro 4 off the list, this probably would have slotted in as the 5th one. But I think the Pro 4 is just an awesome shoe. The value proposition of training plus racing and how comfortable it is, it's awesome. But this guy here, this would be the alternative to the New Balance 1080 V13. So if you don't want something super soft, that would be the Nova Blast, because you're going to be super comfortable for this for those longer miles. You got this padding out here in the back. You get some good stability. It's also a good competitor to the Skyward X if you don't want to pay $225 and you still want that protection and a little bit of that bounce. But it's just not as good for faster miles as the Boston or the Skyward X. It's not as comfortable and soft as the 1080 V13. That's why I didn't make my favorites, but it's still an awesome shoe. I did put it on my favorite daily trainer list. So if you want something that's a little bit firmer for recovery, I would go for the Nova Blast 4 here. It's also a great long run shoe. If you want a non-plated oh gosh. Man, a mosquito was just sucking my blood. I didn't realize we were already out in mosquito season here, so we got to make this ending quick here. But what I was going to say is, if you want a non-plated long run shoe, this would be the best one out of all the shoes that we brought out here today. I didn't actually mention a non-plated long run shoe, and that is something I've been thinking about. I'm feeling okay running most of my runs in the plated shoes right now, also getting more comfortable with those plated shoes before we race in them. I do think there's a psychological benefit to just the confidence of having used gear a ton before stepping up to the start line. You know, they say no new things on race day, and I firmly believe that. So if you don't want to run in a plated shoe all the time, though, especially for those long runs, there's no better non-plated shoe right now than the Nova Blast 4. Some people like the Super Blast 2, so that's a good one, but wasn't my favorite. I prefer the Skyward X for that category. So Nova Blast 4 here. I apologize for leaving you off the list, but this is also a great marathon training shoe. So there you have it, guys. Those are the 5 favorites plus 2 bonus picks. Real quick here, we got the daily trainer, the long run and the race shoe, the recovery shoe, the speed workout shoe, and then if you want to shell out $225, this is just the do-it-all shoe that you could really just buy the Skyward X and the 1080 and be set for all of marathon training. Or you could do something like buy the Pro 4 and the Vomero and be set for all marathon training. So it's a little bit of mixing and matching here based on what you're looking for in your rotation. These are my 5 favorites. I'm sure we have people out there who's experienced these. Let me know what your experiences are with these shoes. Let me know your 5 favorites, other ones that you recommend to the runners here on the channel. As always, guys, I appreciate you watching, and I'll be back tomorrow with another video.